to Survive and Advance on the Gruely Truth Sports Network. Survive and Advance is brought to you by MyBookie.ag. For up to 100% cashback bonus on your first $300 deposit, go to the MyBookie.ag website, put in the promo code TGT100, or go to thegruelytruth.com and click on the MyBookie.ag banner. Also, Seat Giant, which you can use the promo code LEGEND to get 10% off your first ticket purchase. I am your co-host for Survive and Advance, Mike Goodpaster, and I want to welcome in my other co-host, as always, a member of the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame, a member of the 1981 national champion Indiana Hoosiers, Steve Risley. How you doing, Steve?
Hey, doing good today, Mike. Good to be on board. Seems like we have a fun show today.
Hey, did you know that our guest today is from Michigan, and he's like a Michigan State fan, Steve?
That's good. I love Tom Izzo. Dane Fife's a good friend of mine up there. I coached Gary Harris, played with Magic Johnson, played against Magic Johnson. I mean, I have a lot of affinity for Michigan State.
All right.
I have no problem with that school. Jettison, we used to be the Jettison Fieldhouse. What's the place called up there now?
I don't know. Tom Izzo's house. And right now, we want to welcome in our special guest today. He is the hockey beat reporter for the Grueling Truth, Sam McGinnis. How you doing, Sam?
I'm doing pretty good. How you doing?
Hey, Steve. So you know, Sam's also a Detroit Lions fan. That's funnier than me being a Bengals fan.
It's
pretty
terrible.
Close. It's pretty close. But you know what? I admire loyalty to both you guys. I mean, I'm lucky. I have the Colts. You know, we can go from 1-5 to make the playoffs, and we have a couple Super Bowl trophies sitting in our front office.
No, you don't. So. You have one Super Bowl
they're both
trophy.
there.
No.
They're both there.
No. I don't care. There was no party in Indianapolis in 1971 when the Colts won the Super Bowl as the Baltimore Colts. You don't get to count it.
There's no party of well, I can't even say there's no Super Bowl trophy hanging in Detroit or Cincinnati, so I can't even go that
really?
Right.
So you're claiming...
Oh, listen, just shut up.
There you go. You're claiming that the Detroit Lions have never won an NFL championship.
No, they've never won a Super Bowl.
Oh, so...
They've won plenty of championships just in the 50s.
So what you're telling me is
they've not won a Super Bowl.
Unless you were alive during it.
55 years, they've done nothing.
Count.
And neither have the Bengals. They've
lost.
No,
they're not. The Bengals have been to 2 Super Bowls.
And lost.
So
hey, Mike, let me tell you something. Second place is the first loser.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your Super Bowl was won against Rex
in the Colts entrance room.
Okay.
There are 2 Super Bowl
I hate to tell you this, but there's 4 NFL championship trophies in Detroit if you go in their trophy room. You only got 1.
Okay, but
well, I don't know how many NFL
NFL
championship trophies the Colts have. They probably won an NFL championship, so we're down the road, too. I don't know. I have no go
in
back.
Baltimore.
We don't worry about shit.
In Baltimore.
Well, it's fine, but still the Colts franchise. You know, the changing city doesn't mean a whole lot.
It doesn't?
It's still
I
the
think
same
it means
organization
a ton.
franchise.
So it doesn't mean much if you switch cities?
That's what somebody that doesn't have a Super Bowl trophy would say. It means everything because you want to parallel it into something that's not relevant. I'm saying we got it.
So basically, what you're saying is in St. Louis when they won the Super Bowl in 1999, that's really Los Angeles' trophy now.
Well, it's the Rams trophy. It's the Rams franchise trophy. Where the team sits is immaterial. Still the same franchise.
It doesn't count, Steve.
How many Super Bowl trophies are in the Bengals lobby?
17.
There you go. See.
So, because you can make them up as you go, right? Well, I mean, I want to claim a couple of Cleveland's in the 50s since Paul Brown was the coach. All right. Our goal today is to count down the top 10 choke jobs in sports history. Now, what do you consider a choke job, Steve?
You know, it's a situation where you have control. To me, where you have control of your own destiny and fate, and by your own mental or physical lapse, you lose control of your own fate. And to me, that's what I think a choke job is to me. It's like I'm in control here. I have charge. I control my own destiny at this point, and I'm solidly in control of my own destiny. But then, through my own mental lapse, more so than what somebody does to me, makes a miraculous comeback or something like that. That still could be a choke because generally you have to fail for them to make that kind of lapse. But it's losing control of your own destiny when you have total control of the situation. That's a choke to me.
Sam, do you agree with Steve? It's always good not to agree with Steve, by the way.
Actually, I'm going to have to give that one to him. That's basically what it is.
Okay. I completely disagree. I think it is a choke job to me is a mental lapse more than anything. Because a physical could just be...
I said mental and physical, Mike. If you listen to me, I said a mental or physical lapse.
Yeah, but a physical lapse to me is not a choke job. It just means you failed. There's a difference between blowing it and,
Well, okay, if you're in a mile race and on the last 100 yards you trip and stub your toe and fall, that's physical. That's not mental. That's a choke.
Yeah, that's a choke.
That's a run that this guy should be able to
no,
make and run.
Because if you
running
tripped...
the last 100 yards of a mile race.
Wait a second.
And he trips on his own foot and falls. That's a choke job.
Okay, so if he tripped because he felt the pressure and he tripped, that's a choke job. But if he tripped
well,
because
maybe he didn't feel pressure. Man, if I'm 100 yards ahead on the last 100 yards of a race and I trip and fall, I stub my toe and trip and fall, that's a physical choke.
All right. Well, what's your number 10, Steve?
My number 10 is the 2012 Ryder Cup team. On September 30th, the Ryder Cup team was up. Going into the last day, they were up 10-6 with points. Going into the last day, they only needed to win 4.5 out of the 12 possible points. So this is one-on-one match play. The United States are playing on American soil, and this is where U.S. should be dominant. Match play one-on-one. They went on to lose, I think, like 8 of the matches, and ended up losing 8.5 points to the Europeans, and lost Ryder Cup 14.5 to 13.5. It's probably the biggest choke in Ryder Cup history. Okay. They basically all they had to do was show up and play good golf and have the matches, do whatever they need to do, but they came out and just blew it and lost the Ryder Cup, and it's virtually about the only time that's ever really happened with that kind of a lead. 10-6 is almost an insurmountable lead going into the singles match play on the final day of the Ryder Cup. So my number 10 is the 2012 U.S. Ryder Cup team.
And that was basically on Steve Stricker and Tiger Woods, correct?
It was on pretty much everybody. Yeah, Stricker didn't play well. Woods didn't play well. Furyk didn't play. Furyk lost to Garcia. Yeah, that was a bad one. And I think Furyk, yeah, that was bad.
Okay. All right, Sam.
It was at Medina in Chicago.
Sam, don't worry. I'm not going to make you comment on the 2012 Ryder Cup. What's your number 10?
Golf doesn't count. Sorry, I had to
Thank you.
mess with you there.
It doesn't count in your world.
It doesn't count in most people's worlds.
Sam, you're 17. Sam, you're 17.
Yes, I
didn't start playing golf till I just started playing golf till I was 25. I thought the same thing you thought, that golf doesn't count until I started playing it.
Well, playing golf is completely different from watching it. I like playing golf. I just don't like watching it.
No, I don't ever watch golf either, but this still was a choke job. Whether I watched it or not.
Fair enough.
I may not even have watched this match. It still was a choke job.
Okay. Sam,
that's true.
Let's go ahead and talk about sports,
okay.
Sam. What do you got at number 10?
At number 10, I have the 2014 AFC wildcard game. The Chiefs choked away a 38-10 point lead in the third quarter to the Colts. I was personally watching the game at the time. I was literally just watching Andrew Luck throw bombs. I'm sorry, what?
Who did they lose to?
The Indianapolis. Oh.
The Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were going to say.
Really? Because we could just put Peyton Manning at number 1 overall for choking away multiple home playoff games. But go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, the whole rest of the game was literally just Andrew Luck throwing bombs and the Chiefs realizing they didn't have a secondary.
Yeah, and that was Andy Reid. Andy Reid could be put at the top of the all-time chokers list, probably, Steve.
For coaches, probably.
He's a poster child for it at the very worst.
Yeah. Well, it's a shame the Colts won that game. My number 10, my number 10 would be the 1998 NFC Championship game, and that was a choke on a few different levels. Number 1, the Minnesota Vikings were 15-1 that season, and then you had Gary Anderson, who basically went all year without missing a kick until he missed, and he missed at the end of the 1998 NFC Championship game. If he makes a 38-yard field goal, they go to the Super Bowl, as a basically counting the playoffs, a 17-1 team. They would have played that great Denver Bronco team. So that choke job made us watch the Falcons get destroyed by Denver, and it showed us the difference between having Dan Reeves and Dennis Green as your coach. But to me, Gary Anderson went all year, never missed any kick at all. And then he misses this kick that would have put them up by 10. Chris Chandler drives the Falcons down, ties the game up. They win it in overtime. And, I mean, Gary Anderson has to be the focal point of this, but Dennis Green, if you watched the game, which Steve probably didn't, he was probably watching the Young and Restless or some Ryder Cup action from, Cambridge or whatever. But, yeah, that's my number 10.
Isn't on the weekends.
All right, Sam, what do you got at number 9?
Number 9, I have the 1975 Pittsburgh Penguins. They blew a 3-0 series over the Islanders. For some reason, I don't know why, but I've looked at their history. Their playoff history against the Islanders is just trash. I was looking through it, researching this yesterday, and I was like, holy cow, you don't want to be playing the Islanders.
Well, I'll tell you what, Sam, the thing that upsets me here is you're doing research. Me and Steve just kind of fly by the seat of our pants, so we may not be able to have you back now, because if you're going to try to make us look bad like that, I think I can speak for Steve that that's uncalled for.
He's young. He'll learn.
Yeah, but that was the last 3-0 series comeback in the Stanley Cup playoffs, wasn't it, Sam?
No, the most recent one was in 2014.
I don't even remember that, but I stopped watching hockey.
There's one in 2010 as well.
Recent. Yeah, and that was in the quarterfinals, wasn't it, or semi? Was it quarterfinals or semifinals?
It was quarter.
Okay, and yeah, and the Penguins, was that their first time in the playoffs?
No, I think it was their second or third. Okay. Even still, though, that's like they hadn't won a playoff series yet. So.
Well, the great thing that I see about this, Steve, is the fact that probably all those Penguin fans are Steelers fans. So I don't like the Penguins just because of that. So that's a good thing.
Well, you can dislike the Penguins because of Sidney Crosby, too. So.
Why? Why do you hate Sidney Crosby? I've noticed you argue with people before. Do you just not like great players?
No. I like people like Peyton Manning, but he's
Ooh, you like Peyton Manning?
A prideful jerk.
Why do you like? Well, what do you think Peyton Manning is?
A nice, good quarterback. Like I have nothing against him anyway.
Really? So the steroids, HGH, and then the sexual assault in Tennessee don't bother you?
Sam, you're going to get baptized here. You asked for this.
I know more about Peyton Manning and his transgressions than anybody. In 1998. I believe it was 97 or 98, Peyton Manning paid off like $800,000 to a female trainer because he sexually assaulted her. And then with the neck injury, all kind of HGH was sent to his house in his wife's name, but it was found out through some investigative journalism that his wife didn't have anything that would need HGH, but it was covered up because Peyton Manning's the poster child of the NBA. There. So now you know extra stuff you didn't before. What? Well, yeah, cheating happens when you're and you know what? It's really bad when a Colts fan says crap happens because you know what? Crap happens then when the Patriots beat you guys all the time, deflated balls or not. HGH is worse than deflated balls, Steve.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Number 9,
I just
Steve.
got schooled.
Number 9, Steve. Well, now you know what Risley
feels like. I got the 2004 AL Championship Series, New York Yankees up 3-0 on the Red Sox, one game away, including I think a 19-8 rout in Game 3. And then Boston makes a miraculous comeback on them and wins the next 4 games through various entities, which I'm not going to go over. Game 5 lasting over 5 hours. Schilling pitching out of his butt, Damon hitting out of his butt, hitting 2 homers for a 10-3 win at Yankee Stadium. Ended up sweeping the last 4 games and putting the Yankees out of the series. First time ever in baseball that a team had lost a 3-0 lead. That's the first time.
Still the only time.
We talked about the last time in hockey. Pardon?
It's still the only time.
I don't know if it's happened again since then. I don't know if it's happened again since then, but it may have. But it was the first time ever that a baseball series, a team 3-0 lost the series. So I had that at number 9.
I've got it a lot higher, and I'll bring that up later. But the other thing that's interesting about that is, if it wasn't for 04, you may have 03 in when the Red Sox choked it away. The Red Sox were up 5-2 in the bottom of the 8th with Pedro Martinez, who was probably, if he wasn't the best pitcher in baseball at the time, he was close to it. And manager Grady Little took him out of the game, and they ended up basically blowing the game. They lost it in extra innings. Aaron Boone hits a home run. Grady Little gets fired off of it. So really, you had back-to-back choke jobs in the same series, with each team choking it away once each. The one difference here is, the Red Sox took advantage and won the World Series, where the Yankees went on in 03 to get upset by the Florida Marlins. So there's just an interesting tidbit. I like interesting tidbits. My number 9 would be the 1995 NBA Finals, and this is all on one dude, and that's Nick Anderson. He was a career 70% free throw shooter, was sent to the line on two occasions to put the game away in the final seconds. They were playing the Houston Rockets, led by Hakeem Olajuwon, and he basically, they call him Nick the Brick after this. He misses not one, not two, not three, but he misses 4 free throws with a 2-point lead, and they end up losing 120-118, and that pretty much ended the series, because after that, the Houston Rockets just won the next 3 games without a problem. So I think the 4 free throws led to the sweep. So yeah, to me, that's the biggest NBA choke job, or especially in the finals, that I've ever seen. Steve, you remember that one?
Yeah, you think it's bigger than Golden State being up 3-0 on Cleveland in 2016?
They weren't up.
Cleveland
they weren't up 3-0.
It was
3-1.
It was 3-1.
3-1, okay.
And also, you got to remember this.
3-1.
Yeah, but this is a dude that you just had to make free throws. To me, that's a choke job.
I agree with you. I just NBA. I think that the Golden State Warriors losing 3-1, and then losing to Cleveland, which.
Yeah, but you got to remember this too.
I agree with you.
You got to remember this too,
Nick
though.
Is probably the biggest single individual choke job. Yeah, I would agree with you right there.
The Golden State series at 3-1, though, if you remember, you had a controversial play where they actually suspended one of the Warriors' best players. Was it Iguodala or some crap like that? But they suspended him for a couple games, which had a lot to do with it too. But I think that the Anderson one was strictly, a mental choke job. And to me, a mental choke job is worse than a physical one. Let's go to number 8, Steve.
My number 8, again, I was eclectic in things that I took. My number 8 was one, and Mike, you and I kind of talked about this. Mark Martin, 1994 Bristol race. He had led most of the race, and the race on the last lap there was a wreck. The wreck. Bristol's a half-mile track, so you run a lap in about 10, 15 seconds, 15, 20 seconds right in there. And with about 5-6 laps to go, there is a wreck. A yellow flag comes out. So basically, they're going to finish the race under yellow, and Martin's in the lead. Well, but there's cars in front of him because that track is so tight that you always got cars on the track all over the track. So the cars that were in front of him were waving him on to get him to the front so he could cross the finish line first. Well, what happened was on the last lap, Martin thought they were waving him on to go into the victory circle. So he pulls into the pits, stops 300 yards short of the start-finish line, and then David Reagan goes on by and ends up winning the race. He pulled into the pits one lap short, thinking he had won the race, and ended up finishing, I think, 23rd in that race because there were 23 cars on the lead lap that all passed him before he ever got to the start-finish line. So to me, that's a pretty big choke job in racing right there.
Yeah. Once again, racing is not a sport, but that is a choke job. So as long as there's nothing about a car breaking down or something.
Why do you say that? I never get on you about your sports saying they're not sports.
You can't, because all my sports are sports.
Well, so are my sports.
Okay. Sure they are.
I'd like to put your ass in a NASCAR and have you run 500 laps on a half-mile track and see what your body does at the end of that race. You're drained. You lost 10 or 15 pounds.
I can tell you this, though. I have driven straight to like Daytona Beach before, which was like 14 or 15 hours at a rate of 75 to 80 miles an hour.
And you stopped at every Stuckey's along the way and got a sticky bun, probably.
No, I don't eat sticky buns. They're unhealthy, Steve.
Not anymore. Now I know you're plant-based now. Back then, I think you ate sticky buns.
I've never ate sticky buns because sticky buns are disgusting either way. I never really ate hot dogs either. But yeah, I don't eat meat.
Never ate a hot dog from a gas station.
I've
never eaten a hot dog from a gas station.
See, when Sam sees me next, he won't even know who I am because last time he saw me, I weighed like 290 pounds. Now I weigh 230. And, I can outrun you too now, Steve. So you can't even run away if we get in a fight.
I've got neuropathy. I can't run, period.
Well, that's even better. That'll make it easier for me to catch you. All right, number 8, Sam.
I have the New England Patriots Super Bowl 42. They lost to the New York Giants, who went 10-6 that year. The Patriots had a perfect 18-0 at the time, and the fact that this was even a competitive game, I think, was just to say something. And then you have at the end of the game a dropped pass. Can't remember who it was, but it was right near the red zone. So that I just can't even believe that they let that be a game. Although I'm happy about it.
I don't think it's a choke job, Sam.
No?
I don't remember a drop pass at the end of the game either, because when they got the ball back after the Giants scored, there was only like 15 seconds left. To me, a choke job is you give the game away. And in this game, what people forget is you say it shouldn't be close, but they had played 3 or 4 weeks before that, week 16 of the NFL season, and the Patriots barely escaped that game with a 38-35 win. I think this is more of the Giants got lucky because the David Tyree catch was the difference in the game. And without that catch, the Patriots win the game. And I think the thing that people miss is the only real weakness on that Patriots team that year was they had an average offensive line. Now, the defensive line with O.C. Umenyiora and all those guys, Michael Strahan, Justin Tuck, they were a great defense, and they had a great defensive line, and I think that it just, when this game was played, the Patriots' weakness went up against what was the Giants' strength. So when you look at it, and with the lucky catch, and it's not like you had like 5 or 6 turnovers by the Patriots here. I think the Giants just outplayed them. They got a lucky play, and they won the game.
I don't really think there's an excuse for going 18-0 and then losing to a team that was 10-6 regardless.
Well,
I agree with you, Sam.
Then there would be no excuse for being 16-2 and losing to a team that's 10-6.
18-0 is a little different.
Why?
Because there's only one other team that's ever gone undefeated in NFL history or Super Bowl history.
1934, the Giants
modern era
went undefeated.
Modern era, yeah.
All eras modern. I don't care.
Okay.
Well, every championship counts the same.
Well, they would have dethroned the 72 Miami Dolphins as the last undefeated team, and I think it is a choke job when you go 18-0 in a season because I had that at my number 7.
But remember this: that was a 38-35 game in Giant Stadium, the last game of the season. These teams were not as separated as people think because.
Yeah, Mike, I just say the choke is that they were 18-0. I know it was a great game. The choke was. They choked by not being able to finish it out and go 19-0.
They choked because they got beat by a team that took advantage of their weakness.
And 18 times they overcame it, and in the 19th time they choked and couldn't overcome it. They had history. They had history in their grasp.
I just don't
First
see.
First team to go 19-0. Nick will now be the last team ever to go undefeated.
I have a hard time saying you choked though if the teams were evenly matched. They played twice.
I agree.
And
the choke is being 18-0 and losing the 19th game. That's the choke, not the crux of the game. I understand the balance of the teams in the game, but champions find a way.
Yeah, and they did. And that was the New York Giants that year.
You choked.
Okay.
You choked on your record, not on the game.
They choked on their record?
I agree with you, Sam.
David Tyree caught the ball off his helmet. It's still the only catch he's ever made. That was a great play.
He made it.
Yeah.
That's what sports is all about.
But that's not a choke. A choke would be if the Patriots had the ball and Tom Brady throws an interception or they fumble the ball.
The choke is they went 18-0 and lost the last game and finishing out 19-0. That's the choke.
That's not a
not
choke.
the crux of the game.
A choke to me is you piss away something that you have in your hands. And basically,
but
the New York Giants
the defender
took
was right there, though. If you're even talking about that catch, the defender was right there. He should have been able to stop
You are exactly right, Sam, and that's why this is not a choke job. It's a choke job if the defender chokes and is not there. He blows the coverage. David Tyree catches it by himself and runs in for a touchdown.
You're not listening to me. The choke is not the crux of the game, not the plays in the game. The choke is going 18-0 and losing the 19th game. That's the choke.
So anytime you lose, you choked.
No, when you're 18-0 and have one game to finish and go 19-0, and you've dominated the league all season long, and you come to the final game and you don't win the championship or win the 19th game, that's a choke.
But they didn't dominate the league. They only beat the Giants by 3 points.
They were 18-0, Mike. They dominated the league. I don't care what the score is.
They beat the Giants by 3 points.
That's fine. They beat them. Key operative word there is
18-0.
Yeah.
18-0.
Does that mean the Giants choked
and they choke
when they lost 38-35? I mean, it's just
that's enormous. That's immortality to win that game.
Yeah.
That's 19-0. I mean, look how immortal the 72 Dolphins continue to be.
You think by watching that game that the Giants didn't really outplay them?
It has nothing to do with the content of the game.
Oh, it does, because a choke is when you blow something. This is what were your words?
They blew an undefeated record.
Okay. Your words were a physical or mental letdown. There was no physical or mental letdown here. They just lost.
They had a mental letdown. They didn't win the game.
They had a mental letdown because they didn't win the game. All right.
Yeah.
But if David Tyree drops the pass, they win the game.
This is the middle word in life, Mike.
Yeah. And you know what?
Crap happens.
This is the thing. It's not a choke if somebody makes a play to win a game. It's a choke when you don't make the play to win the game. In my opinion,
they
is
did
right.
Make the play. They didn't win the game.
All right. Tom from Mobile, Alabama says,
you're both wrong. You. One of your fans.
Yeah, because I got fans. You don't. All right, so be quiet.
I don't care. I don't need fans.
My number 8 is the 1969 Chicago Cubs. Had a 8-year. Well, they ended up finishing 8 games behind the New York Mets, but they had a lead of 9 games headed into September. The cool story here is you ever heard a story of a black cat with them? They're playing the Mets in New York. They've got the lead, and a black cat runs into their dugout, and they won like 3 games after that. They finished the season going 8-17, I think, over the last 25 games. I think 8-27 over the last 35 games. They ended up being the most celebrated second-place team in the history of baseball, though. And Leo DeRocher was the Cubs manager that year, who was the Brooklyn Dodgers manager through all those great years, Coach Jackie Robinson. But 1969, the Cubs blew it. The Cubs blew it again in 84, which is another one that could have made the list, where they had a 2-0 lead. They lost Game 3. Steve Garvey hits a walk-off home run, and then in Game 4, Garvey hits the walk-off. I think Game 3, the Padres beat him 7-1. And then in Game 5, they were up 3-0 going to the 5th inning. They were up 3-2 in the 7th with Leon Smith, I think, or Lee Smith, who was the best closer in baseball that year, had blown almost nothing, and the Padres ended up beating them. So basically we could just put the history of the Cubs and the Red Sox in here if it wasn't for the last 15 years. Number 7, Sam.
I have the 2014 San Jose Sharks. First round, they were dominating the Kings. It was not even a question. They were up 3-0. And then for seemingly no reason, they tripped over themselves for 4 straight games and ended up losing. Stacked team, and they lost.
All right.
That series killed me.
Steve? Do you know what city the Kings are in?
My number 7 was the Giants Patriots.
Ah, so you're both wrong. All right. I think we talked that one to death, but...
Yeah, we have. So move on, yeah.
All right. My number 7 would be the 1986 Boston Red Sox, and I'm not going to say Bill Buckner because it wasn't Bill Buckner's fault completely. Plus, if Bill Buckner makes that play...
fault.
Yeah, McNamara's fault with leaving Bob Stanley in. Also...
And not putting Stapleton over Buckner.
Also, Roger Clemens. Roger Clemens, I mean, was winning in the eighth inning, pulled himself out because of a blister. That killed it also. And the thing that's interesting about this is in 1986, you had probably the greatest playoffs in postseason history of Major League Baseball because you had the Mets and the Astros, which was a great six-game series. It was decided in like the 17th or 18th inning where the Mets won at Houston. And the Red Sox in '86 were a great story because they were down 3-1 against the Angels, and they were down 5-2 in the ninth inning. And Dave Henderson hits a big home run. They end up winning that series. The tragic thing there is Donnie Moore, who was the pitcher that gave up the home run to him a few years later, actually committed suicide. And a lot of people think this had a lot to do with it because he was really, not himself after that had happened. But 1986, also the Red Sox, they go to the Game 7, and they're up 3-0 in the sixth inning, and they end up losing Game 7 also. So the 1986 Red Sox would be my number 7. Steve, 6?
It's the same thing. That was my number 6. And I just want to point out, to me, like, I agree with you. Buckner wasn't the problem there.
Yeah.
The problem
if Buckner fields the ball, it's a tie game, and it's probably
over.
still going to lose.
Yeah. So he's part of the process, but Boston manager Johnny McNamara, Buckner was hurt. He was hobbling, had bad knees. Instead of using Dave Stapleton, who was a better defensive first baseman, put him in. He puts Buckner in, and then the inevitable happens. Buckner goes down in history as the biggest choke artist individual in baseball, probably because of that play. And then the Sox go on and lose the series. They're 1 out away from winning the whole thing. But the choke there was John McNamara, who didn't make the right decision. That was a mental mistake on his part.
He also had Bob Stanley, who he leaves in the game.
Yeah.
Bob Stanley was always a tragic figure in Boston sports, plus the blown 3-0 lead. I think the entire 1986 Red Sox could be here.
Yeah. But
Sam?
unfortunately, Buckner takes the brunt of that all because of that one play. But that wasn't what it was. The managing job that choked and cost him that. Anyway, that was my number 6.
All right, Sam, we'll see if you can do a good as job as Steve just did.
Number 6, yes.
Yes.
I have the Atlanta Falcons, Super Bowl 51, 25-point lead versus the Patriots.
That's number
and
6?
they choked it all away.
Number 6?
There are a lot of choke jobs after this, man.
No, there's nothing that big. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Matt Ryan throwing balls all first half, no problem. Second half, I don't think adjustments is in the Atlanta Falcons dictionary. I just don't think it's a thing because the whole second half, the Patriots defense shut them down hard. They didn't score almost any points at all. I don't think they did. And then you have the Patriots coming back all the way, forcing overtime, and then the Atlanta Falcons defense choking by not even being able to stop him once in overtime, letting him score a touchdown. That one hurt me because I hate the Patriots. So
I loved it. I love the Patriots. You shouldn't be such a hater of greatness, Sam.
No, it's just I don't like dynasties. This is one of the reasons I love the NHL in its majority more recently than any time because you don't have, even if there is a dynasty, it's short-lived.
Yeah, but dynasties.
Sam, that's coming from a man.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's coming from a man who hates the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have won how many? 5 Super Bowls?
They're not a dynasty right now. The
Not right
Steelers
now,
were a
but
dynasty in the 70s.
No, they're screwed.
Aren't a dynasty either.
They were a dynasty in the 70s, but dynasties are good for sports because dynasties bring interest. You also, every once in a while, like the Eagles-Patriots, somebody upsets the dynasty every once in a while.
All I know is Pittsburgh is screwed.
No, they aren't. They're Pittsburgh. They'll be fine. They'll figure it out. They had a good draft, too. But, all right.
Yeah, but...
That's enough. We're not going to sit here and trash the Steelers. We're going to save that for a couple months from now. Steve? What? Did you give the number 6 yet, Steve?
No, I don't think I did I?
Red Sox, you did, didn't you?
Yeah, the Red Sox. Yeah, the Red Sox was my number 6, yeah.
All right. My number 6 would be the 1992 AFC wildcard game. Houston blew a 35-3 lead in the second half against Buffalo. And people also got to remember this. This is not Buffalo and Jim Kelly bringing them back. This is Frank Reich. And the interesting thing there is Frank Reich did this at the University of Maryland also, overcoming like a 31-0 halftime deficit when he was playing at Miami against Maryland. Came back and won that game, I think 34-31, 37-34, something like that. And this was an example of why Houston's run and shoot offense. You know, people blame Warren Moon for never winning a Super Bowl, but I blame the coaching, whether it was Jack Pardee, Buddy Ryan, but Jack Pardee, I already said Pardee, but they didn't run the ball. They were up 35-3. They kept throwing the ball. They kept snapping the ball with 20 seconds on the play clock. And it ended up biting them in the butt as Buffalo came back, won the game. Buffalo went to the Super Bowl, and I think this is the year where the Houston Oilers could have went to the Super Bowl, and they would have put up a better fight against the Cowboys than Buffalo did, because Buffalo, of course, went on to lose the game 52-17. But that's my number 6. Sam, what do you got at 5?
Hey, Mike, before you go on, can I make a comment on that? Talk about the legacy of Frank Reich bringing teams back. Isn't that the same coach that brought the Colts back from a 1-5 start, only the third team ever to do that, make the playoffs, actually win a playoff game before losing to a much better Kansas team on an away game? You had to go down to Houston and beat Houston in a playoff game. I mean, only the third team ever to start the season 1-5 and make the playoffs. And that's the Frank Reich team.
Hammering.
Maybe it's a Frank Reich thing. Maybe maybe the Bengals ought to just sit there and you just watch the Colts win the Super Bowl.
How are they going to do that? Because the Colts aren't going to the Super Bowl. The Bengals will win the Super Bowl this year anyways. This is our year.
Mel Kiper said the Colts will be in the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, Mel Kiper has been right about exactly what?
Nothing.
Okay. So it'll still stay at nothing.
He's not that bad. I like him now that he picked the Colts to go to the Super Bowl. I think he's smart.
He's an idiot. That proves it. So, all right, Sam, number 5.
I had the New York Yankees 2004 ALCS 3-0 series lead. We covered this one pretty well, I think.
Yeah, we covered it outstandingly because I covered it for Steve. Yeah. Let's see, my number 5. My number 5 would be the 1964 Philadelphia Phillies, led by Gene Mauch, who had a 12-game lead with 6.5 games left, and they blew it. One of the two biggest collapses, I think, in baseball history at the end. There's been a lot of collapses in baseball history, though, when you look at this. But the 64 Phillies, I mean, the Phillies had made the World Series in 50. They blew this in 64. They finally made the playoffs in the mid to late 70s. They won a World Series in 1980 when they beat the Kansas City Royals in 6 games. But the 64 Phillies were a big-time choke. Steve, I'm sure you've researched this on Wikipedia. What do you think?
I didn't research that one.
Why not?
I don't know. I just didn't. When I told you, I'm more eclectic in my picks.
Eclectic.
I knew you guys were going to go this direction. You cover them, so
eclectic.
I think that there are so many choke jobs to sit there and say there's actually 10 that are the 10. There's probably about 50 that are all relevant. So I just decided to go a different direction than you guys.
Oh, go with stuff that doesn't matter.
Different chokes.
All right. So where are we at now? Number 4, Sam?
Number 5.
We're
at number 5.
Oh, yeah, I did 5 to start. Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah.
We already did mine. It was 2004 ALCS.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Steve?
Mine was the 2008 Memphis-Kansas game where Kansas started fouling Memphis with minutes to go, and they missed 5 straight free throws that would have iced the game. Jayhawks, in the meantime, were scoring 12 points, came back and won in overtime in that game. So I think, to sit there and miss 5 straight free throws, because any of them could ice the game for you, and to miss them all and allow Kansas to score 12 points in the last minutes of the game, force the game into overtime. Kansas wins in overtime and beats Memphis. I think that's a big choke job on Memphis' part.
All right. I would like to bring up that I suggested that to Steve last night. Number 4,
no,
Steve.
You did, yeah. Thank you.
4, Steve.
My number 4 is, and I'm going to go, and this is why I say this. A lot of mine now are golf, because golf is the one sport where when you choke, it's on you. You don't have a guy catching a miracle pass. You don't have a guy dropping the ball. You have a field goal kicker kicking it.
Nope.
Team chokes are one thing. Golf is individual chokes. This is you on the course by yourself with your caddy, and it's all you're exposed.
With your caddy.
So,
jeez.
My number 5 is Arnold Palmer in the 1966 Masters. Had a 7-shot lead going into the final 9 holes. Now, this is Arnold Palmer. This is 1966. This is his prime. And he ends up losing the 7-shot lead to Billy Casper. They go into a playoff, and, of course, the U.S. Open at that point in time did an 18-hole playoff on the next day. He ended up losing to Casper 67-63 and lost the U.S. Open. Now, that's all on Arnold. I mean, there's nobody there that caused Arnold to lose that. He just choked. And that's why I like golf as chokes, because it's an individual choke. You choked. And I got a couple more coming up that are just as bad. And I know that in the relevant world of sports, golf is not as prominent as baseball, hockey, basketball, or even soccer for that matter worldwide. But it's the one sport that there is where you're at. Tennis and golf are actually sports where the individual is exposed, and when you choke, it's on you.
Yeah, I know. And the thing is this.
Yeah.
The great thing is when they choke, they're basically rich, spoiled brats that have been rich their whole lives and never really had to work for anything.
I don't know many
in their
athletes
lives.
anymore, Mike, that aren't rich, spoiled brats.
Really? So you think that most of the NBA and Major League Baseball grew up rich?
Arnold Palmer did not grow up rich. Arnold Palmer grew up in Latrobe, Pennsylvania. He was the son of a groundskeeper. He did not grow up wealthy.
Uh-huh.
I mean,
Okay.
he did not.
I'm just saying the majority of golf and
Jack
tennis
Nicklaus's
players.
dad was a pharmacist in Dublin, Ohio. They weren't filthy rich.
Pharmacists make pretty
a lot
good
of golfers.
money.
Tiger Woods didn't grow up filthy rich. Tiger Woods' dad was a retired military person.
Yeah.
Some of them do. Some of them grow up with a silver spoon. But a lot of golfers come from normal backgrounds.
So you're saying that Tiger Woods
didn't
didn't grow up with a silver spoon in his mouth?
No, he didn't. His dad, they were
Really?
moderate. They lived in, I think, Chino Hills, California.
Huh.
They were normal people. His dad was retired military general or colonel or something like that. I mean, they didn't miss a meal, but I can't say that he drove a Corvette to high school every day. He grew up normal, and then he made his wealth by being a great talent. Most of the NBA players, NFL players, and baseball players are all pretty well off. Now, all of them are making a bigger salary than I ever made in my life, and those are guys that aren't even playing. So they're all doing fine. There's nobody in sports that's not a spoiled brat.
Huh.
Hey, it's okay. Golf is a pastime anyway.
Yes. There we go. Sam, very well said. Next time we'll do the top 10 sports choke jobs during pastimes.
That's why, that's why the green jacket is just as coveted as the Stanley Cup.
No, it ain't. It isn't. It's just not.
No, it
isn't.
More
Now it's more coveted than that. Oh, you know what? If it's more coveted, why is it if you walked up on the street and asked somebody, hey, who won the green jacket last year? 99% of the people don't know.
Tiger Woods won it.
Last year. You don't even know who won it.
I could not even tell you who won the Stanley Cup. I don't even have a clue who won the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, but you know what?
Washington Capitals.
I can tell you this. Most people.
Where are they now? Oh, they got beat by.
I'm pretty sure of this.
Didn't they?
I'm pretty sure of this, though.
Hurricanes. Yeah.
I'm pretty
One
sure.
Mediocre teams from Raleigh.
Hey, I've never had anybody send me a picture of their green jacket. I've had people send me pictures of their rings, though, and those were usually guys that won Super Bowls or NCAA championships.
Yeah, well, that's fine. You don't know anybody. You're not a golfer, Mike. That's fine.
I was
I'm
a
not
golfer.
hockey player.
I could golf. I just choose not to because I grew up.
Okay. You're a jack of all trades, Michael. Is there anything you can't do?
No, there is nothing I can't do.
There you go. All right.
Well, the other is. I couldn't play hockey because I can't ice skate. But that's just because I never really tried.
My number 5 was Arnold Palmer.
All right.
And he made a great iced tea. He makes a great iced tea, too.
Yeah. All right.
She probably drank.
Who, me?
You don't tell me you've never had an Arnold Palmer.
Yeah. I find it very overrated. But it's just a pastime of mine to drink tea. All right. Number 4 for me, the 1982 NCAA Championship Game. Fred Brown goes down, turns around, throws the ball to James Worthy. He threw it to James Worthy. See, that's your problem. You don't really know anything about basketball. You just know stuff about golf. But he throws it to James Worthy. James Worthy runs down, gets fouled, makes 2 free throws. North Carolina wins the national championship. Most people think they won because Michael Jordan made a shot. It wasn't. It was because Fred Brown didn't take a shot. Number 4, Sam.
Covered Houston Oilers 1993.
And you think that was not as bad as the Super Bowl being up 28 with 15 minutes left or 16 minutes left?
25 points. But, yeah, because that's a bigger deficit significantly.
Really? Yeah, but this is the difference.
That's another touchdown.
Number 1, that's not a bigger difference because Houston-Buffalo was 35-3 with like 30 minutes to go. And it was just a wild card playoff game. The Super Bowl was 28-3 with 17 minutes to go. And it was the Super Bowl. All right, Sam. Sam, you've been schooled. Yep. Go ahead. Try to get out of it, Sam.
Here's the thing. More points is more points, and it's still the playoffs. You want to talk about it like it's not a difference, but a touchdown, I've played many football games. A touchdown is a significant difference when down.
Okay,
so
but how about this, Sam? Wait a second. I know you've played in at least 2 significant games, okay? And you can't tell me there wasn't a different feeling playing in a national championship game than there was in playing the game before it.
There was, but
all right, nope. That's all we needed. You said there was
any difference.
You said there was.
I said the feeling was different. The heart was not. I love playing football in every game.
Yeah, but the feeling,
honestly, like I'm going to give it my all every game. It's not any different.
The feeling of this is this though. The feeling when you're in a championship game, if you fall behind, is a lot different than the feeling if it's not a championship game. You know, Steve, if you're playing Michigan State at Assembly Hall in January and you're down by 5, it's a lot different than playing a national championship game and you're down by 5.
Oh, yeah, the pressure's much greater on you there, yeah.
Okay,
no doubt.
That was my point. I win. Steve, what you got?
Where we at?
I don't know. Number 4? Did you give it number 4?
No, I get too many now. I just found another one that was really a choke.
I know.
Job.
I've got like 30 of them here, but go ahead.
I know. I do too. I mean, we may have to be honorable mentions. We may have to extend this out beyond 4. My number 4, auto racing, J.R. Hildebrand, the 2011 Indy 500, rookie driving for A.J. Foyt, dominates the race. he comes out of turn 3, takes the short shoot in turn 4, and all alone, they leave him alone. He's cruising to the start. You can see the checkered flag getting ready to be waved, and he puts the car into the 4th turn wall with nobody. I mean, he just ran it into the wall. I mean, it's the ultimate choke job in auto racing. There was nobody near him. He cleared the field. They were letting him go. He was on his way to winning Indy 500 as a rookie for A.J. Foyt, and he literally parked the car into the 4th turn wall.
All right.
And sat there as everybody passed him by.
I don't know about you, Sam, but my biggest worry from this whole thing is the great pleasure Steve took in somebody ramming his car at 200 miles an hour into a wall.
I don't take pleasure. I felt bad when I wanted him to win.
You were laughing,
he was
Steve.
For the
you were giggling like a schoolgirl.
It was a little disturbing, just a lot.
I know.
It was idiotic. Because it was a self-inflicted wound. It's not like somebody makes a great catch against the Patriots and causes them to go 18-1. This was self-inflicted.
Yeah. So what you're saying is
it was the ultimate choke job.
What you're saying is this:
wrecked his car.
A choke job.
He missed his mark and wrecked his car.
So you just proved my point with the Giants thing, though, because this rate's much higher because it's an actual choke job. All right. Number 3, Sam.
Number 3, I have the Golden State Warriors 2016, up 3-1 on the Cleveland Cavaliers. Also happened to be setting the, I believe it was, all-time wins record for the NBA, and they lost 3 games straight.
Well, I don't think that was a choke job. I think that was a fix by the NBA to make sure that Cleveland got to win the championship. But
73 wins, up 3-1.
Yep.
That is a choke job.
Okay, so you don't take into account when, for basically very little reason, they took one of Golden State's best players and suspended him for 2 games at 3-1.
Even with that best player out, they were better than Cleveland. And
yeah,
the
but
fact
it
that
doesn't
they couldn't
matter.
win any of the 3 games.
What year was that? 16 or 14?
16.
16.
Was it? Oh.
Yeah, because I had it on my list too.
Well, I don't have it on my list because I just think that there was no way the NBA was going to let Golden State win.
As an alternative, yeah.
Yeah, because the suspension was bad. And if you look at those games, let's look at one real quick. Let's check out Game 7.
Well, Mike, and I would tend to agree with you to some degree that they wanted Cleveland to win that tournament.
Oh, yeah.
They wanted to get LeBron and Cleveland a championship, and this was probably their best shot to do it. And I tend to agree. I think the NBA manipulates that more than any other professional league, where they'll, that's why I think the refereeing in the NBA is so bad. I think
How about this, Sam?
To make calls.
As an example, Golden State was at home in Game 7. It was a 4-point loss, and the Cavaliers shot 18 more free throws. Sam,
Well, have you looked at what were the penalties, though? Do we have any
Penalties?
film of that? We should.
Well, yeah, I watched the game, and I remember thinking, this is really bad. And I know Steve did, too, because it was really bad, and it was pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Especially when they took the player away. We'll give it to you, though. It's still a choke. Let's see. Lucas Weiss is making fun of us because, you're a classic bozo, Steve, thinking the NBA is fixed. But Lucas is supposed to be working today, and he couldn't come on the show, but he's got time to send us
Yeah, but he
messages.
can listen to the show,
Yeah.
right? Shut up, Lucas.
Yeah, shut up, Lucas.
Shut up.
All right, number 3,
Shut up.
Steve.
Quit texting idiotic things.
Yeah, Sam,
Poser.
Lucas is from Canada, so
Yeah.
that's all we need to tell you there, so you know
He's
what kind of guy
he's
it
a
is.
self-professed critic. He's always got to come on and knock us down, yet he won't put his ass on
Canadian-
our show.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Canadians have 2 sides. They're either really nice or what hockey players are. That is it.
I
Idiots.
like what hockey
Yeah.
players are. They're
Good.
idiots. Yeah, Canadians are
Idiots,
idiots,
yeah.
except for the people who listen to this
I
show.
agree.
They're all right. All right,
All the other Canadians are nice. It's just Lucas Weiss is an idiot.
Yeah, Lucas is an idiot. Lucas, this is the thing. Sam, have you ever heard of the Iditarod dog sled race?
The what?
The Iditarod dog sled race.
I've heard of dog sled races, but not that one.
You've never heard of the Iditarod?
That's the most famous dog sled race in the world, you 17-year-old.
You think I follow dog sledding?
Well, Steve
Well-
does. And Lucas is such a fool that, see, the Iditarod, where's the Iditarod held in every year, Steve?
Alaska.
It's held in Alaska. But when Lucas first started coming on the show with us, when he was just a wee little lad and he really didn't have any experience, Steve told him he was going to cover the Iditarod since he was in Canada, and Lucas got all excited. And Lucas, I think, wandered the countryside in Canada for weeks looking for the Iditarod dog sled
dog
race.
sleds.
And just now, since he's listening, Lucas, it's in Alaska. So, all right, number 3, Steve.
My number 3 is a tie, and it's the same sport. It involves Gene Van de Velde and Greg Norman. Golf again. I had to put him
Van
in
de
a tie
Velde?
when-
Yeah, I bet he grew up poor in
Okay,
the ghettos
Gene
of Harlem.
Van de Velde, in 1999, Gene Van de Velde entered the 18th hole at Carnoustie for the British Open. There had never been a Frenchman win the British Open. He's got a 3-shot lead on a par 4. All he has to do is hit iron to the middle of the fairway, lay up with an iron, on and 3, 2-putt, take your 5. You win the U.S. Open, the British Open, by 2 strokes. Okay, because nobody can catch you at that point in time. Instead, he decides to be an idiot, pulls his driver out, shanks it, puts it into a thick gorse rough, instead of just trying to chip back into the fairway and then hit the green from he hit it far enough, he just chipped it back into the fairway. Instead, he tries to go for it. Okay, now he puts the ball in the burn. So now he's laying 1, 2 with a penalty stroke. He drops 3, pulls it out. He has to drop back in the gorse because you put back, drops into the gorse, chunks it again, ends up making a 7 on the hole, and goes to a playoff. When all this guy had to do was hit iron, 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 2 putt, you win you're the champion golfer of the year. Only Frenchman ever to do it. And he basically blew the lead and lost it in a 4-hole playoff. And it was probably one of the 2 single biggest choke jobs in golf of all time. But again, this was all on him because they had mics there. The caddy was begging him to hit an iron. The caddy was sitting there pleading with him to please just hit an iron in the fairway, lay up.
Can I ask you a question,
Lay up
Steve?
short. Yeah.
Why do they have caddies? Why don't they just carry their own bags and pick their own clubs?
I don't know. I think it's just the way the golf was designed. I don't have an answer for that, but I've wondered that before. I mean, I carry my own clubs when I play, but
because
you
know why?
They need someone to look down on.
Go ahead.
They need someone to look down on.
Yes,
I don't know.
exactly.
Most of the caddies are pretty much instructors, and I mean, a lot of the players rely heavily on their caddies to motivate them and do things. So the caddy rule's awkward, and we had to do a whole show on that. We can get caddy on and talk about that, but I know golf's not relevant, so we won't do it. But that was a big joke. The other one was the 1996 Masters. Greg Norman goes into the 18th hole. He finished second so many times, and he coveted the green jacket. Has a 7-shot lead going into the final round. Ends up shooting a 68. I mean, just puked on himself the entire way around the golf course. All he's got to do is shoot par. And out of nowhere comes Nick Faldo, who shoots a 67, and then ends up beating Norman by 3 shots and wins. And that's I've considered probably the single biggest choke job in all of golf of all time.
All right.
Because this would have given him this green jacket. He would have played in the Masters for the rest of his life. So my number 3 is a tie between Gene Vandevelde. Again, these are individual players exposed. They created their own mess.
Yeah, with their caddies.
Nobody that told them. Pardon?
With their caddies. I mean, this is my problem with golf. Number 1, everybody's got to be quiet while you're hitting the golf club. That would be like, NFL or NBA officials waiting for the crowd to quiet down. It's got to be peaceful to shoot free throws because you got to be able to concentrate. They don't overcome any adversity. You love adversity, Steve. You hate instant replay because you love overcoming adversity. But you bring up, when we have this show, a sport where the only adversity is in your head or a tree in your way because, God forbid, somebody scream out when you're trying to do something because you got to be able to concentrate. And let's face it, the reason there are caddies is because rich people play golf and caddies carry their clubs. They throw to caddies a little bit of money here or there, and that's it. I mean, it is the ultimate class sport. That's why I don't like it. That's my problem with it. And my other problem is this. You don't need a caddy because all you need is a golf cart. Why wouldn't you use a golf cart if you could? I don't want to walk 18 holes. Sam, do you want to walk 18 holes when you can ride on a golf cart? And it's really fun riding down the hills on the golf cart. And you take that away from the golfers. I just don't think that's right.
I don't want to get into this debate right now. If you want to do a show on this, I'd be happy to do a show on this with you and bring golfers in and let them tell you why things happen. Golf's a very traditional sport.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. It's like an aircraft carrier. It's very hard to change things in golf. They've been very stoic about the rules. The game's always been walking. You always wear long pants. You repair divots, but if you're in a divot, you play out of the divot. It's been that way since the game was invented, and there's very few rule changes. There's only 34 rules to the game of golf. If you look at the rule book, there's only 34 rules to the game. There are 1 million decisions on the rules to the game of golf, so there are only 34 rules. And the fact of the caddy, that started when the game started being played in the United States, or actually in Scotland, too, where the game was invented. Just a caddy was part of the process. The PGA mandated long slacks. Golf carts were forbidden. I mean, there have been players. There was Casey Martin, who had atrophy in his bone, and he ended up, something was going on with his left leg. His bone was deteriorating.
Yeah.
They wouldn't let him use a cart.
Exactly.
He had to walk. And so they stick to the rules. And, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but somebody like you that doesn't play golf on a regular basis.
I did. I used to play golf on a regular basis.
Well, okay. Well, then you should appreciate and understand the tradition and the rules of the game. It's just the way it is. It's just the way the game is played. It's played with honor and integrity. It's one of the few sports where
rich
you call
people
a foul
play
on
with
yourself.
honor and integrity. That's the first time I've ever heard
money.
that.
I mean, I'm not rich, and I play golf as much as I can. It's not just a game of rich people.
Yes, it is.
You go to any community course out here in Los Angeles, and you see normal people out there packing these community courses, playing all day long. They're not wealthy. Yeah, you've got your Rivieras and your.
So what's it cost to play a
and your
public course? Is that like $15?
Probably $30.
$30.
Yeah, $30.
Okay.
Yeah, probably 15 on a. I mean, there's a course near me. I can after 2:00 you can play for $15, and it's a nice course.
Yeah.
It's all I need at 60 years old.
Yeah.
So
right.
I mean, it just don't put it down. It's just a different.
Well, I'm
sport
going to
than
put it down because I don't like it. I don't like what it represents. I have read the history of golf. I know about Scotland. I know why things are the way they are. You know.
And you talk about adversity. Do you realize?
Oh,
do you realize that golf is one of the few sports in the world where the ball is stationary at its best?
Wow.
Think about it. Football, the ball's moving.
That's adversity.
Basketball, baseball, the ball's moving.
You know what?
Golf
I hate to tell you this, but it's a lot harder to hit a moving ball than it is a ball that's sitting there.
Yeah, that's why great hitters only bat 300.
Yeah.
I agree. But also, the aerodynamics of a golf ball, you can be a millimeter off your club head, and the ball's going to go left, going to go right. It's not an easy sport to play. That's why so few people play it. Anyway, let's move back to it. That's a different story.
It's an easy sport to play. I've played it.
Well, that's your opinion, Sam. You'll change that.
I'm not Sam, by the way. I'm Mike. Sam, did you give us your number 2 yet?
Sam said it was a pastime.
Because it is a pastime.
And Norman combined.
It is a pastime. You know, it's hard to throw throw horseshoes, but it's still a pastime. Go ahead, Sam.
I've heard baseball called America's pastime.
Yeah, because it's a pastime.
Yeah. Okay.
That's why I prefer football, basketball, and hockey. Go ahead, Sam. Number 2.
We at number 2 then?
Number 3.
Yeah.
We had done. Everybody else done number 3?
Oh no, I didn't do number 3. Did you do number 3, Steve?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine was big.
All right, Sam, do number 3. Get this straight, Sam. Come on, keep up. 3, Sam. Or did you do 3?
I already did my number 3. It's Golden
I didn't
State.
do my number 3. My number 3 is the 1978 Boston Red Sox who blew a 14-game lead to the New York Yankees. Bucky Dent hits the home run. They end up winning the game 5-2. The Red Sox have a huge history of choking up until the last 15, 20 years. As we see, but they were on everybody's list at 1986 also. They were the benefactors of 04 with the Yankees and Red Sox. And I think that's what makes it so interesting with the Yankees and Red Sox because to me, 03, 04, 78, you could just lump them all together with all 3 choking, but I think it's also what makes it one of the great series in baseball history or one of the great rivalries in sports history. Are we to number 1 then? Or we're number 2?
Number 2,
Sam.
I have the 2010 Boston Bruins versus Philadelphia Flyers. They started the series real well. They won games 1, 2, and 3. I think everything's fine. You know, Boston's got great players. Shouldn't be an issue. Not only did they lose 3 games straight, but during the 4th game, Game 7, they scored 3 goals in the first period and also blew that lead. Van Riemsdyk scored in the second. They give up 2 more goals, and they ended up losing. In that fashion specifically, the fact that they not only blew a 3-game lead, but then a 3-point lead during Game 7, I felt like this one deserved to be higher.
Okay, it's a 3-goal lead in hockey. You said 3 points. Nobody says points in hockey. Lucas is listening in. Lucas, is that true? And Lucas claims not to be the person that was giving us trouble earlier. I thought he was under an assumed name. He says he wasn't. I still think he was. My number 2.
I love Lucas. I'm heartbroken he's not on today.
Me too. I didn't even want to do the show, but then I like Sam.
He doesn't like it
I at least had one person here I liked. What?
Yeah. Oh, wow, Mike. Thank you.
Sam,
I'm sorry. I guess he doesn't like you.
That went over Sam's head. All right. Number 2 for me
17-year-old teenagers.
is the
He's probably
04.
playing Xbox.
Yeah, he's probably playing. What's one of them games? You play them games, Sam,
War
on
game,
that little
Halo or something like that.
that little
My son
machine that's hooked up to your TV, and you can play people from other places.
You sit there and
I
pound on
actually
buttons
hate
while you know
Fortnite.
what the hell you're doing.
Fortnite is of the devil, so yeah, you're actually finding
All-
quite a different person there.
All video games are of the devil.
I agree with you, Mike.
I actually don't
Totally
even have
waste of
time
time.
much to play them anymore, so
There, that's
You
good
know.
for you, Sam.
Good, Sam. I'm proud of you, though.
I promise
too.
to all the teens out there, you can survive without it.
Yeah, you can. I survived my team. Well, I had Atari. Atari was much better. You had to use your imagination
I had
while you
Atari.
played because it sucked if you didn't.
I had Pong.
Pong? Yeah.
Pong.
Do you remember the Atari basketball game where it was like 2-on-2?
Mm-hmm.
That was good.
Yeah.
They had a football game too where you had like 3 linemen, a quarterback, a running back, and a wide receiver.
Yeah.
It was like 6-on-6, and there were little boxes that
And the
moved
guys-
around. Yeah,
The guys were little digital squares. They weren't even lifelike. They were little digital squares.
yeah. I've got an Atari. Maybe I'll drop it off to your house.
Yeah, we have
Sam,
an
and you
Atari,
can play
too.
it.
Ross has one. He's got one of
Yeah.
the original Nintendos, too. Those are worth money.
Really, Steve?
Anyway, let's
They're
go.
worth money. All right, number 2 for me.
Yeah, go to
the
eBay.
04 ALCS. The Yankees blow a 3-0 lead. We already know the story of that. So, Steve, what's your number 2?
My number 2, with great pleasure, is Virginia Cavaliers losing to University of Maryland, Baltimore College. I take great pleasure in that choke. That's just an ultimate choke.
Yeah, but you
First
know
time
what?
ever a
I
number
didn't put
one
them on
seed
the
loses to a
list.
number 16
I didn't
seed.
put them on the list because they won the national championship this year. They have Kyle Guy.
Well, that's
Hey,
fine, yeah.
Sam, have you ever heard of Lawrence Central High School?
No, he hasn't.
No.
Okay, Kyle Guy is the leading scorer in the history of Lawrence Central basketball.
No, he's not, Mike.
Yes, he
why
is.
why do you lie? Why do
See,
you
this
get on
is the
TV
thing.
lie, or radio
Yeah, it's
lie?
wait a second. It's not lying when that's what Lawrence Central High School says. Now, see, Sam, the interesting thing here is a certain Steve Risley went to Lawrence Central and claims to be the leading scorer of all time at Lawrence Central. But when you talk to Lawrence Central High School, they say Kyle Guy is because Steve was in not modern times. They called Steve, what'd they call you, Steve? Prehistoric times?
They said and I addressed it with them, just for the fun of it. Really, it's not a big deal. But Kyle Guy scored around 1,500 and some odd points in 4 years. I scored over 1,600 points in 3 years. So I kind of faxed them the sheet, and they were, well, he's the modern era scoring leader. And it basically we're making a run for Kyle to get Mr. Basketball. So they're going to throw that out there. So whatever, it's not relevant. There's people in Iraq getting their heads cut off. with
But you
dome
will
knives.
still put him losing last year in the tournament at number 2, so there are some sour
Yes.
grapes. My number
It doesn't mean
1,
the champions can't choke. I mean, look at Arnold Palmer. The guy went on to be the greatest golfer of one of the greatest golfers of all time. He choked in the U.S. Open. Choke is an event. The choke is a single event. And that single event, Virginia choked. Now, they went on to greatness and won a national championship this year. Bully for them. But in that moment, they choked. Choking is a moment. It's not a career.
usually
Unless you're
it,
the
You can't make a
Washington
career out of
Capitals.
choking.
it becomes a career. And then really the Capitals won it last year, Sam.
It becomes
So
it becomes
there
a
you go.
label.
It took them forever,
It becomes
though.
a
They
label.
choked
Doesn't matter. They
year
did
after
it.
year until last year.
Well, the Detroit Lions
I'm
have choked
saying
year
they
after
said it,
year
but for
since
quite a few years they were.
1958 or 59, wasn't it, Sam? So that's a choke. Of course, they're never good enough to win it. But, Sam, what's your number 1?
My number 1 is the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Really?
Watching this whole series was just a little
Come on,
pathetic.
Sam.
Let-
That's
let
not
me
as
run
bad
this
as
down,
picking
right?
golf, but
Let me run this down. They are the first President's Trophy winner to not win a single game in the playoffs.
yeah, the equivalent to
first
this,
time.
Sam, wouldn't you say, would be when the Warriors won their 72, 73 games if they would have been swept in the first round of the NBA playoffs.
That would have been bad, yeah. And on top of that, here's some of the list of the awards they either have won or will win by the end of this year. Art Ross and Hart-winning forward. You have Victor Hedman going to get Defenseman of the Year likely. You have more than likely Vezina Trophy winner in their goaltender, Vasilevsky. That's literally every single category. Offense, defense, goaltender. And their special teams was also fantastic. And they couldn't win a single game against a team that had not won a game in their series in their entire history. That is a choke job. It is the ultimate choke job.
No, it's not.
They are the new meme of the NHL, and I'm never going to look back on that.
It's not the ultimate
Mike?
choke job. The ultimate choke job, number one, the ultimate choke job can't be a Canadian sport. All right? That's almost as bad as Risley with the golf.
That's bull.
What?
Mike,
What?
Mike, can I make a statement?
Yeah.
No more hockey people on this show unless we're talking hockey. I'm not allowing any more hockey people on this show.
Oh, I'm
unless
letting
we are
hockey
doing a
people
show
on all the
about
time.
hockey.
I like hockey. You know what? We
I
did a
love hockey,
NASCAR show.
but
We've done a golf
to
show.
call that the number one choke job in all sports is what I would expect a 17-year-old to do.
Well, what's your number one, Steve?
Well, it's the same as yours, I'm sure. Go ahead and talk about it.
All right.
I think you and I are on the same page. So I
Atlanta,
know what it is.
Atlanta, New
Right,
England in the
exactly.
Super Bowl. This is a choke
Yeah,
job
you describe it.
beyond epic proportions because you have a 28-3 lead with 2 minutes left in the third quarter, and there's no way that they could lose this game, or there's no way New England could win this game unless Atlanta allowed
Well, there
them
was
to.
a way.
Well, unless Atlanta allowed them to. So the thing is, you're talking 28-3. They're snapping the ball, the Falcons are, with, 20 seconds? Anywhere from 15 to 20 seconds left on the clock the entire game. The rest of the fourth quarter until you get to the last 5 minutes. You also had Julio Jones make a great catch, which puts him in field goal range. And on 3rd and 1, with a 45-yard field goal there to basically end this game, they try to throw a pass. They get a holding call. They get a sack. They have to punt. This game was completely on Kyle Shanahan and Dan Quinn. To me, that's a choke job. It's a choke job of epic proportions that we may never see again. This is 28-3 in the Super Bowl. When you're down 28-3 in the Super Bowl with 16 minutes left, most people are thinking, dang, we just lost the Super Bowl. The Patriots played well, but I mean, you got to remember, this was given to them by bad coaching. That's strictly what it was. All it was bad coaching. So the Tampa Bay Lightning, they choked in the first round. You know, most people aren't going to remember that 50 years from now. But I guarantee you this, 50
That's
minutes.
not what makes it the greatest, though.
Oh, what makes it the greatest?
It matters what is the biggest
Where did they choke,
deficit
Sam?
either overcome. What?
Where did they choke? We've seen 3-0 deficits overcome before. We've seen teams to go undefeated and fail before they win a championship. The difference on this choke job is this. The Columbus Blue Jackets, in the end, were the better team. They whipped their butt
That's
4
Tampa
straight
allowed
times.
Them to be not.
Because well, you know what? Atlanta had the Super Bowl one, and they allowed New England to come back and win it. Now, New England
Tampa
had to take advantage of
swept
that.
them in the regular season series.
Yeah,
They had
so?
every possible thing going for them,
Yeah.
and they couldn't hardly score any goals.
All right.
That's on
All
them.
I can tell you
If
is
they had
this,
played up
Sam.
to their potential.
Sam, exactly. If they would have played up to their potential. The difference is this.
And they
The
didn't.
Atlanta
That's where they
Falcons,
choked.
hold on. The Atlanta Falcons played up to their potential. They played the best game they'd played that entire year. They had the Super Bowl one, and then their coaches puked all over themselves. All they had to do was run 25 seconds off the clock every snap of the ball, and they win the game, and they win the Super Bowl. I agree. What happened with Tampa Bay was a huge choke job. But we're talking about here is the last 17 minutes of a Super Bowl. All you got to do is not screw it up, and they screwed it up. You know, the only way you could get a hockey thing to be close to this, or a hockey match to be close to this game, whatever you want to call it is if the Tampa Bay Lightning would have been playing in the NHL Finals against the San Jose Sharks. They'd have been up 3-0. They'd have lost 3 straight games, and then they would have come out and been up 7-0 after 2 periods, and then lost it 8-7 in the third period. So what I'm telling you is this. This is a choke job because it is a straight-up choke job. What you gave us, it's a choke job, but it's also it's more of just they didn't play well. They choked an entire series. I think, to me, when I'm 17 minutes away from being a world champion, and I puke on myself, that's something I'll never forget. And the thing about that is this. The Tampa Bay Lightning will probably still be one of the best teams in the NHL next year. The Atlanta Falcons, after puking on themselves, have consistently gotten worse and worse each year. This had an effect on that franchise that I think it's safe that, I think it's really safe to say that this is something that the Atlanta Falcons, it'll take a long time to recover from. The Tampa Bay Lightning, they can change some players. They can change their coaches. This sticks with Atlanta. Just like the Buffalo Bills, losing those 4 Super Bowls in a row. At the time, everybody talked about how great it was and what a great accomplishment it was to go to 4 straight. They've won like 1 playoff game since then. Because stuff like that sticks with you. And, I mean, that was a loss in that Super Bowl that was beyond comprehension. Everybody thought they had it won. All right? The Tampa Bay Lightning, they lose game 1. People still thought they were going to win. They lose game 2. Everybody thinks they're going to lose. This was one moment in time that was 18 minutes long where all you had to do was not screw it up. That's why it's number 1 to me.
They screwed up 4 games straight. You're talking about 1 game.
No, I'm talking about 17 minutes. That is the biggest choke job of all time. I'll tell you this, Nick Anderson missing 4 free throws to win an NBA Finals game is a bigger choke job than that. Because I'm telling you this, Sam, I watched that Tampa Bay team play, and I don't care how many awards you've got. There's a big difference, and Risley can tell you this, there's a big difference between playing in regular season and playing in the playoffs. And when I watched that, Columbus dominated them. I don't think they choked. I think Columbus beat them because Columbus was better than them in a playoff situation. Their goalie played better. Defensively, they were better. Special teams, they were better.
Hold it. You're saying Columbus, the team that had never won a playoff series, is better in the playoffs than the Lightning, who had recently been in a Stanley Cup and multiple conference championships. No, they had playoff experience.
So what you're doing is this. Why would a team that has been in multiple Stanley Cups and won one of them choke in the first round against Columbus?
They didn't. Okay.
They didn't choke. There you go. You were going to say it. You could finish it.
No, I thought you were talking about the 2015 one that they had been to. I didn't know you were talking about.
Well, how about this, Sam? If Tampa Bay beats Columbus, is it guaranteed that they would have won it all?
I think it's quite likely.
Is it guaranteed? It's not guaranteed? Is there no doubt? All right. So, how about this? Number 1, Tampa Bay's only Stanley Cup was in 2004 and 2015. It's the only time they've played for it. But my other thing is this. It was guaranteed Atlanta had that Super Bowl won if they just ran the ball and ran the play clock down to 2 or 3 seconds before they snapped it. Nothing's guaranteed.
I think the reason Tampa choked was because of all the pressure and hype of the 62 wins in the team they were playing. I don't think they were seeing it coming and then they never adjusted for it. That's what I think.
Exactly. So Atlanta was set up to win the Super Bowl if they just did 2 simple things, and they didn't. The other thing is this. Hockey is a very fast-paced game, and hockey is a game, the way Bobrovsky's played, they still got a shot to go to the Stanley Cup Finals. And when you look at that, it's kind of like baseball. In 1990, I saw places that put the Reds beating the A's as the A's choking. People forget this. When it came down to it, the Reds just had better pitching. And when you come down to the Stanley Cup playoffs, you know this, Sam. If your goalie's on fire, even if you're not the better team, you're going to be hard to beat.
Andrei Vasilevsky is better than Bobrovsky.
So you think that he outplayed Bobrovsky in the playoffs?
Not in the playoffs. He choked in the playoffs. Regular season, they swept him. I was there at one of the games.
I think
team
this.
Is absolutely better.
Hold on. Let me explain this. Like with the Super Bowl 42. To me, I think there's a big difference between a choke and just getting beat when you shouldn't. Because I think there's a lot to be said. In Super Bowl 42, the Giants outplayed the Patriots. I'm not going to say the Patriots choked. Now, if you turn the ball over 5 times and lose the game, yeah, you choked. But I think there's a big difference between a choke job and somebody just beat you when nobody thought that they would. Mike Tyson didn't choke against Buster Douglas. Buster Douglas, yeah, it's where I'm headed, Lucas. I already made the Buster Douglas reference. But Buster Douglas, to me, upset Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson didn't choke. The Columbus Blue Jackets upset Tampa Bay. The Atlanta Falcons in the Super Bowl choked. In 2004, up 3-0, the New York Yankees choked. I think there's a big difference between a choke and an upset. That's all I'm saying. I think what you got this year with Tampa Bay and Columbus was just an upset. Upsets happen all the time. We've seen 8 seeds in the NBA beat 1 seeds in the NBA. Very rarely do people say they choked because it's just an upset. It's a best-of-7 series. It's hard to choke in a best-of-7 series. If you lose in a best-of-7 series, you got outplayed. If you lose in a one-game situation, there's a lot better chance that you choked.
You want me to give you some examples of their choking during game then?
No.
Because I can do that. How about Victor Hedman running into Andre Vasilevsky so the goal was wide open, which helped them with their comeback in game 1? Or, all the posters that they ringed off the post that should have been goals because they were under pressure and couldn't score because they just couldn't handle the pressure. There were plenty of examples. You're just ignoring them.
I'm not ignoring anything. I'm just saying there's a difference between a choke and an upset. See,
Is
to
it a
me,
choke to have an open net and ring it off the pipe?
Well, that's
if
missing.
The answer is yes, then they choke.
That's missing.
It's a goal anybody in the NHL could
Risley,
and should have made.
Risley, when you played in the 81 NCAA Championship game, if you'd have missed a layup, would that be a choke or would that just be a miss? I mean, if you miss a 10-footer, is it just a miss or is it a choke? Because the other thing is this. I think Columbus played so good defensively.
It depends on the shot. I mean, if it's a wide-open layup,
Yeah, if it's a wide-open layup. But we're not talking about a wide-open layup. We're talking about being on skates, hitting it into the goal. And I think this.
It was open.
I think when the other team is as physical with you as the Blue Jackets have been in the playoffs this year, that physicality can sometimes cause pressure that busts pipes. And what I'm saying by that is if you have a team that is constantly pressuring you and you finally get an open shot, it's not necessarily a choke job. It's like, I can't believe I got an open shot. And you rush it and you miss it. It's not a choke. It's imposed because the other team has put so much pressure on you that you can't handle it. To me, that is a partial choke. And I do think Tampa Bay choked. I just don't think they choked to the epic proportions to be the biggest choke job in the history of sports, Sam.
Running into your goaltender, your own goaltender.
Yeah.
That's not a significant, that's the first goal that's one of the major goals that helped them get back into the first game at all.
Sam,
that's what
once
swung
again,
the momentum.
Sam, calling a play with 20 seconds left on the play clock for 4 minutes of a game to give an extra possession to the New England Patriots is not a bigger choke?
That's part of a game, but again, choking 4 games is more significant than 1 game unless it's like the Houston Oilers game where that's like 35 points, but even then it's not because it's 4 games. That's a big difference. 4 games versus 1.
Well, I think when you're 17 minutes.
I think this.
Go ahead.
Can I add some comment here? I think this. First off, Tampa Bay's loss was a first-round loss, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. It's a loss in a hockey tournament. It's a choke. There's no doubt it's a choke. But you're talking about choking in the biggest sports venue in all of the world. I mean, there's other than maybe the World Cup Finals, there's no sporting event that draws more attention than the Super Bowl. What happened in the Super Bowl, based on the people watching, what's at stake, that's the ultimate choke. That's the largest sports stage, one of the 2, in the world. Tampa Bay losing in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs is a choke, but it's nowhere near the monumentalness of Atlanta choking in the Super Bowl. It's not even close. And you got to look at the venue involved in it and what's at stake when you choke.
Yeah.
I agree with Mike. Tampa Bay will come back next year and probably win the Stanley Cup and dominate the league. And it is a choke. But to say it's anywhere near the equivalence of Atlanta, what they did, a 25-point lead with 2 minutes to go in the third quarter, an almost insurmountable lead.
Yeah, and nobody's ever come close to doing what was done there. Now, real quick.
Tell you what. Let me say this, and I'll shut up. New England didn't really win that. Atlanta gave it to them.
Yes, that's a choke.
Yeah.
Columbus played really well.
That's an ultimate choke.
The other thing is this.
Atlanta just gave it to them.
Calgary was the 1 seed on the other side, and they got beaten 5 games, didn't they?
Yep.
So why aren't they the second biggest choke of all time? They were a number 1 seed that lost to an 8 seed.
You have several things going on there. First off, the reason they're not number 2 is because there's a million choke jobs that are bigger than that we've already mentioned that were up 3-0, or big ones like Tampa Bay and Houston.
Yeah.
Second
so you just admitted there's a million bigger. It's the same thing. It's the same thing, though. It's an 8 seed beating a 1 seed in the first round.
You're assuming that the reason a choke job is greater than another is because of what stage it's played on. I've played on teams where you can choke in front of 2 people or 50 to 100, 200. It doesn't make a difference to you because it still hurts. The stage and the pressure can be different, but it's where you crack and how much of a deficit or what really should have happened. That's what makes the difference, not necessarily the stage.
Well, I can tell you this, Sam. I've coached in games where not many people watched. I've coached in games in front of thousands of people and lost a championship game because I choked. And I can guarantee you this, there is a huge difference, a monumental difference.
It might be a monumental choke if Tampa Bay had gone undefeated all the way through the playoffs and get the Stanley Cup and then choke and lose 4-0. That would be a big choke. But losing in the first round of a playoffs, that happens all the time. So it is a choke.
62-win teams don't do that until Tampa Bay.
Well, obviously they do because Tampa Bay did it. So
yeah, a lot of teams do it. A lot of teams choke.
Do that.
That's why there's 5,000 of them on here we could list. We could do a top 2,000 list. The thing that's really interesting to me is if we did a top 10 pressure players or plays in sports history, it would probably only be half the list that we could come up with on choke jobs.
Yeah, I see your point.
It's a lot easier to choke than it is to get it done when it matters.
All right, I think we need to wrap this up. I think, sorry, Sam, you were outvoted 2-1.
You lost, Sam.
Okay, I understand where you're coming from, but I don't agree.
It doesn't matter, Sam.
You have that right. This is America.
Sam,
this is Canada.
I completely understand. I just don't.
Sam,
don't think you guys quite understand the monumentalness of the 62-win choking in the first round, especially to Columbus.
Sam, because I do watch hockey. And I don't think you understand the monumentalness of blowing a Super Bowl with 17 minutes up by 25 points.
I was watching that game too.
Doesn't matter. You don't understand. You're 9.
And the choke
Steve's
there was on
87. I fall right in between you two.
That was a very mismanaged football game by the Atlanta coaching staff.
All right.
Yeah,
well, hey, the good thing is for Steve, I didn't bring up all those. See, this is the thing, Sam. You got the Colts who were like number 1 seed and got beaten their first playoff game at home by an 8-8 Chargers team. To me, that's a bigger choke in a one-game situation. We've seen that a lot of times. We've seen the Colts upset the 13-3, 14-2 Chiefs in 1995, and they missed 3 field goals under 40 yards, which ended their season. So I'm just telling you this. There's been a ton of teams that go through and have historic seasons. You had one of them on the list earlier, the Golden State Warriors, and then they've crapped down their pants when they got to that point. So to me, I'm going to go with the one that happens in a short period of time where it took one man, Dan Quinn, and his offensive coordinator to screw it up. But we're going to wrap the show up, and you can follow Sam at The Grueling Truth whenever he writes an article again. Sam, when you write an article again?
I'm probably going to do one either on the draft, NFL, or coming up with the NHL midway point.
All right, sounds good. And
Sam,
Steve,
did you do an article for us on the Tampa Bay choke?
I suppose that's what I could do then.
that would make sense. Hey, do this. The article could be I don't even see. This is the thing, Sam. The thing you're missing is 1942. The Detroit Red Wings were up 3-0 in the Stanley Cup Finals and lost the next 4 games. To me, that is a monumentally biggest choke in hockey history.
You've got the fact that they won 62 games later and at least made it to the finals. Tampa Bay didn't even do that.
Yeah, well, it's a lot worse to choke in the championship. But
it feels worse, but it's
no,
not.
Trust me,
it doesn't make it
worse. I've done both before. It's a lot worse. It's better not to make it there than to make it there and lose. There's nothing worse than making it to the ultimate game and then losing it. But
would you rather say you're second in the nation or 8th?
To tell you the truth, there's no difference to me. And see, the thing is this, a lot of teams choke or fail when they get to the championship just because they're happy to be there.
Now that I will give you. A lot of teams choke because they're happy to be there.
Yeah, it's not really choking. It's just you're already happy. Once you're happy, what's the point? You know, and I've seen it before where a team will go to a championship game, whether it be a Super Bowl, World Series, National Championship, Stanley Cup Final, where one team wasn't supposed to be there. They get there and they're happy. The other team's been there before, and they planned on coming there the whole time and winning it, and then you end up losing if you're the one that's happy to be there. But I'm a Bengals fan. I know all about losing. All right, guys, we're going to wrap the show up. We will be back on Monday with something. I don't know what yet, but we'll do something. Steve,
NHL playoffs.
We'll probably go NHL playoffs like Tuesday or Wednesday, Sam, so keep it open.
There you go.
And we'll get Stewart back, too. We'll probably just go before the conference finals.
Probably take a look at the NBA playoffs, see how they're doing on Monday.
Maybe. We'll see.
And we'll cover Dover NASCAR race if they run it. It's raining on the East Coast.
We're not going to cover that. All right. But Steve will cover it with Alex Gray on the NASCAR show, which you can find
their show on Wednesday night.
Every Wednesday night, except for when Steve loses internet. It has to be posted on Friday morning, so make sure you check that out. You can hear all of our shows on iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, Zeno Live Radio, and we're now up to 224 other platforms you can find us on. So just search The Grueling Truth and you'll find us. So for Sam McGinnis, Steve Risley, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.